If there's one direct-to-streaming series that hasn't lost its footing yet in 4 seasons thus far, it's this one.
There is something ancient here. And it's feeding off our suffering, and it doesn't stop.
Hi, I'm LadyJenevia, and on my channel I talk about entertainment media. Today's video is a review of From Season 4. Technically, it's a review of episodes 1 through 6 because those are the episodes I've been given press screeners to watch. Presumably, this season will be 10 episodes in total, just like the other From seasons that have aired before this one. In case you are newer to my channel and you are simply watching this review because you watch a fair bit of whatever reviews I publish on here, but you're not already familiar with From, I will provide some context first. So the first chunk of this review is more of a broad overview and feedback of the show thus far, but not revealing too much if you haven't started the show yet and you want to consider getting into watching it now. After this section, we will get into the part of the review that is specifically Season 4, so at that point, it will be fair game to talk about some major revelations from the show's first 3 seasons. From is a horror mystery and seemingly supernatural series that aired its first season on Epix, before Epix rebranded to MGM Plus for seasons 2 onward. Each season has had 10 episodes, and when you begin the show, you are introduced to a mysterious town that people are trapped in. There's often a common pattern where people are driving, and then they come across a tree that has collapsed and it's blocking the road, and then as they keep driving on their journey, they end up in this town. It's a town that they don't recognize, and regardless of whether or not they stop in the town at first, if they keep driving, they're just going to find that no matter which way they attempt to drive through this town and leave it, as they keep driving, they will find themselves driving back into the town. So at some point, you will have no choice but to stop. Once you meet the people in the town, someone is going to fill you in about the fact that you are in a town that will not let you leave, and at nighttime, you have to stay inside some sort of house or building, or more or less any kind of enclosed space. Even a vehicle will suffice, but it has to be an enclosed space that has one of the talismans that the people in town now have. If you have a talisman hung up inside an enclosed space, the monsters that come out at nighttime in this town will not be able to enter. If you don't have a talisman hung up, or if you go outside where they can get to you, you are more or less guaranteed to die a violent, horrific death. The show's ensemble of characters is rather large, but the writing somehow manages to make sure that everyone they've taken the time to introduce to you will consistently be kept up with in the narrative for as long as they're alive. It's a dangerous town, so sometimes people don't end up making it, especially since by the time I'm doing this review, we are about to talk about Season 4, so there have definitely been some casualties along the way already. If you need one reason to tune in beyond the premise and genre intrigue, the top billed star of From is none other than Harold Perrineau, Baz Luhrmann's Mercutio himself. He is the sheriff of the town, though that wasn't his job before he came to the town. You also meet Boyd's son Ellis, Ellis's love interest Fatima, Donna, who is the leader of Colony House, Victor, who is one of the coolest and most interesting characters because he's been in the town the longest out of any of the other people that have gotten themselves trapped there. You have the Matthews family, who are new arrivals to the town in Season 1, along with a man named Jade. We have Kenny, Christy, Sarah, and other people who have joined the ensemble after the Season 1 premiere, such as Elgin, Randall, Bacta, Mariel, Henry, Acosta. It's a lot of people, but I promise if you get sucked into the intrigue and drama of this show, you should not have a problem keeping up with all of these characters, even if it seems like a lot of people. The thing about From is that it's extremely effective in getting you invested in these characters because the stakes are always high, so you cannot help but worry about their well-being. Even if you don't have emotional investment in every single one of those characters, there are so many well-written people to follow that there are going to be a few folks you end up getting invested in. Now, I am a Baz Luhrmann fan, so of course, Harold Perrineau was my window into the show. I'm always worried about Boyd. But I also really like Victor and Donna. I'm very much on board for certain developments that have happened with Jade and Tabitha recently, and I'm also someone that really enjoys effectively told mysteries, and now that we are in Season 4, we have finally reached a place of having some answers. It was a lot of questions to lead up to the Season 3 finale, but now it finally feels as though there are some things to work with in a whole new way, but there are also still plenty of mysteries for the characters to investigate and pursue, So it's unclear how many seasons they could or should run this series for, but it doesn't feel like it's losing its footing yet, so maybe we could do 1 or 2 more seasons after this one and still be able to maintain this level of quality, and then you end the show before you nosedive the series past the point of no return. How many shows have we seen this happen to where they start off excellent, and then they just keep going for too long, and then the ending is so naff that you simply do not care to rewatch that journey ever again? We don't need to name names, but you definitely had at least 1 or 2 series pop up in your mind off of that description alone.
There are a lot of people wanting to know what happened down there.
Now I want to talk about season 4, so click off of this review if you are new and want to experience the mysteries thus far as they were intended. Previously on From, in the season 3 finale, we got to experience the most significant plot developments, which included the fact that Fatima's so-called baby was taken away by that mysterious woman in the robe, and that baby proceeded to immediately, quadruple, except it was far more than that. It grew into a full-sized person, but not just any person. It was Smiley. You thought Boyd put him down once and for all? Surprise! No, he didn't, because Smiley is back, courtesy of Fatima's creepy pregnancy. By far, the most mind-blowing revelation was the fact that Jade and Tabitha finally remembered that they have been in this town before, multiple times as a matter of fact. They have been to the town and tried to save these mysterious ghost children repeatedly, but every time they've done this, they have failed, and then they have been reborn as new people who end up trapped in the town once again to try to do what their previous selves could not. Oh, and Jim died, which was kind of hilarious for me specifically, only because I had said in my early season 3 review, the one that I did where I hadn't seen all of season 3 yet, I think maybe I had seen half of season 3, and I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was something to the effect of how this show needed to up the stakes and kill off a major character, or else the threat level wasn't going to feel as palpable anymore if the main characters always have plot armor. I do remember that I said something like, I mean, come on, Jim is right there. Not me suggesting that they kill off Jim, and then once I finally got the rest of my season 3 press screeners, what happened? The man in the yellow suit showed up and ripped Jim's throat out. Sorry, Jim, it wasn't personal. It's not as if I had a personal problem with Jim as a character, but someone needed to go, and the Matthews family had 4 people in it, and none of them had died yet. More or less everyone else in that town has lost at least one family member. Sarah, Kenny, Boyd, and Ellis, Victor. It's practically an initiation by this point. So now that we are in season 4, there are so many characters to go over that I'm going to mostly do quick feedback of my overall thoughts of many folks in this ensemble thus far, and we will perhaps linger a little bit longer for some of the characters whose storylines have stood out to me more in these first 6 episodes of season 4. Let's just start with the top of the call sheet and work our way down. Boyd. He is really struggling, and I know that everyone in this town is, but my impression of his arc thus far in season 4 is that they're really leaning into the mystery of what Boyd sees and experiences, because he has this degenerative condition with his brain, but the town is also spooky, supernatural, and highly sadistic, so we have to sit in the unknown of whether or not his brain is off, or if the town is messing with him, or if it's a bit of both. I already said I enjoy a well-told mystery, and Boyd's storyline is definitely working for me. I promise it's not just my Harold Perrineau bias, it's also genuinely great storytelling. There was a really classically spooky thing that happens to Boyd this season that had me equally horrified, worried for him, but also delighted because of how nasty it was to do that to him, when you know what his vulnerable spots are as a person. Tabitha and Jade. Now, I was not aware until quite late that people were already shipping these two before Jim had even died, but now Jim's dead, so if something's going to happen, I'm completely on board with the idea of these two being supernatural soulmates spanning centuries. The drama, the tragedy of it all. The show's timeline sometimes messes with me where I can't always tell how much time has passed because there is this warped sense of time within the town comparing how much time has passed there versus how much time has passed outside of the town in that real world, so to speak. And then we've also got the warped sense of time because of us as the audience having had to spend a year and a half between seasons 3 and 4, but they are more or less picking up right where we left off in the season 3 finale. people don't even know that Jim is dead at first in episode 1. So you can more or less predict how emotionally devastating that's going to be for you to watch the people who loved him most find out what happened to him. And I bring up this issue of timelines because it wouldn't really be appropriate or make sense for anything to immediately romantically kick off between Jade and Tabitha when she has to go through the experience of finding out that Jim is dead and then coping with the emotional fallout of that, both as his wife and as a mother who now is doing her best for her children. But Jade, my guy, is single, so there is nothing holding him back from just emotionally locking in. He just found out that at least one of his past selves and one of Tabitha's past selves were together romantically, carnally, all of the ways to be intimate. My romance girly senses were ringing because I see the vision. I see David Alpay slipping in those bits of yearning into Jade's performance, and the writing, allegedly in my opinion, certainly seems to be nudging these two in that direction. Because what do you mean things are going wrong like always? And what's one of the first things that Jade asks? But what about Tabitha? Or something like that. Is that a romantic lead worrying about his centuries-long soulmate? Concern for her well-being? Is she in danger more than usual? Does he need to take action? So help me, if you make Jade sacrifice himself for Tabitha instead of letting them be together as romantic soulmates once they save the children and break this evil curse once and for all, you will be hearing from me. Here, on my channel, we will have words. David Alpay, you should DM me so we can make sure that we do an interview for this season, because I'm just now realizing that your interview day is on a day when I'm set to travel, and I really want to talk to a certified yearner, which I think Jade is. Jade has quite a trip to go on in season 4, but I'm completely on board for what he's serving in this arc. I'm annoyed that I've been left off with episode 6 when it so clearly is leading to more things happening with the story in general, but also things that involve Jade specifically, who is one of my favorites at this point. So I'm going to need to get those last 4 episodes ASAP so that I may put together my complete review of how this story has played out in this latest 10-episode installment. Donna, she is always going through it because, like Boyd, she's a leader, so people are often looking to her for support, wisdom, and guidance, but I was pleasantly surprised by the connection we get to see between her and Tabitha this season. As far as I'm concerned, with everything Tabitha and Jade are having to deal with, anyone that is genuinely supporting and helping one or both of them to navigate what feels like an impossible task of breaking a centuries-long cycle of death, rebirth, and valiantly trying, but inevitably failing, to save these ghost children, they will automatically be among some of my favorites for this season. Victor, he is always on the A-team of this show, due in no small part to Scott McCord having one of the most consistently transformative and phenomenal performances of the entire ensemble, which says a lot because this ensemble is massive. Kenny feels like he's matured more now that he's had a couple of seasons to process the horrific way that he started on this show, with everything that happened to his family. So now that he's in more of a leadership or leader-adjacent position, it gives him new room to grow and evolve as a character, but unfortunately, it also makes me worry for him to potentially be manipulated in new ways, because if the town and all of the evil things in it can mess with people who are in leadership positions, the ramifications of that have a whole other scale of fallout and ripple effects because of the responsibilities those people shoulder in caretaking for others. Fatima, they have begun a potentially interesting storyline for her, but because I am making this review in the middle of the season, with only 6 out of 10 episodes watched, I need to see the complete arc play out in season 4 for her, so that I can decide how I feel about that material. It feels like there are interesting ideas that have been introduced, but I need to see what sprouts from those ideas before I give a real opinion of that storyline. Ellis, still a wife guy, and I love a wife guy. I have no notes. Julie, without giving anything away that's too specific, if you saw how she popped out in the season 3 finale, you already know what she's working on doing in much of season 4. A lot of what she's doing has her involving Randall so that someone can be her backup if needed. And it's nice to see her do the storyline with another person usually around, because if she didn't have that, it would be a really solitary storyline. And I would rather see her talking things out with another character so that the actress, Hannah, can have a scene partner. It's difficult to communicate enough of what you need to communicate about what Julie is dealing with internally if she were to just go off and try to do what she's trying to do without ever discussing it out loud with a scene partner. And Randall is definitely up to that task, and it's something different for him to do as a character, so at this point, I would say it's working well for both of them as characters on the show. Christy, I would say, is currently the voice of reason in a lot of the scenes she's in. Marielle is struggling more than enough for the both of them, so she provides an important counterbalance to Marielle's ups and downs in trying to deal with the aftermath of the memories of being held captive alongside Julie and Randall. Sometimes it feels like the show has to take turns within the ensemble, like a really demented version of Hot Potato, of struggling the most and being tormented and traumatized by the evil things that the town inflicts on the people there. So right now, Christy appears to get a sort of reprieve from that because, well, just on a logistical level, you need someone there to be able to patch up the wounds. People are constantly being injured, maimed, all of the things. So you would lose a lot more people quickly if you don't have someone that can tend to those things and have a fairly level head about that while doing so. Ethan, well, I don't think this is really a spoiler to say, but the Matthews family are all going to eventually find out that Jim is dead. There was no way to avoid that. And it doesn't really make sense to kill Jim off if you're not going to have the people of the town, especially his family, deal with the emotional fallout of that. So that's definitely informing Ethan's storyline and motivations this season. But he also has other ways of being involved in investigating the mysteries of the town. And I don't know what my full opinion is on that yet, because he is still in what feels like the earlier stages of what he's trying to do. But I am very interested in seeing how that will play out further. Sarah has come a really long way as a character. I remember back in the earlier stages of her story on this show, I would imagine a lot of us were not happy with her, understandably so, but she has put in so much work to atone for things that now I actually really like her. You can tell that she has a kind heart, so of course, now is when the show decides, hey, let's tag Sarah back into the mess of it all. Yet to be seen how that fully plays out, but am I worried? Absolutely. 100%. Bacta so far has had a mostly calm season, as much as things can be calm in this season, on the show in general. If they decide it's her turn to be the one struggling, though, they will undoubtedly come up with something. But for now, she's mostly focusing on the diner, feeding people, and she's a really nice lady, so I don't want to see anything bad happen to her. But now that I have said that out loud, something awful probably will happen because that's just how this show is. Elgin, he already had the enormous dramatic escalation to his storyline that led up to the season 3 finale, so thankfully, the show is not completely mean-spirited, so for now, he's mostly taking it easy. His lack of eye needs to heal up, so we will see if and when he gets pulled back into the most intense drama and mayhem of it all, but for now, I'm perfectly happy to see him just relax, or at least as much as is possible in a town like this. Henry, they take Henry to some pretty emotionally harrowing places this season, and broadly speaking, I'm worried about him. Part of me was worried when they first brought Henry into the town that they were going to kill him off within that season, and I would have been devastated by that, but at the same time, they could still do that, whether it's him or any number of other characters in this ensemble. Killing Jim off in the season 3 finale really made it clear that they haven't lost their perspective or their commitment to the dramatic stakes of this story, which means people can be killed off. I'm worried about Henry. I feel like something bad is going to happen with him. I don't know if that means death necessarily, but I'm invested and I'm worried. What happens if Tabitha and Jade break the curse and then Victor has absolutely no family to go home to? He has lived in this town for more or less his whole life. He deserves to have one family member still alive. If that makes me overly sappy and sentimental, so be it. Acosta feels like one of those characters that's going to retread a familiar character pattern they've done before on the show, where they make you as the audience more antagonistic or annoyed with how a particular character is conducting themselves, but then the town will do something really traumatizing to that character or make them go through some sort of intense trauma bonding with someone else in the ensemble, and then you end up really liking them. Right now, am I a fan of Acosta? I would say no, but the show made me come around on both Sarah and Randall. I'm assuming that if Acosta stays alive for long enough, The way that they seem to be laying groundwork for her character suggests that I am going to come around to liking her more than I currently do, either in the latter bit of season 4 or hopefully in a season 5, because at the rate that this story is moving in season 4, even though a lot of things have happened in these first 6 episodes, it in no way feels like a series finale storyline. So even though I haven't seen all of season 4 just yet, I am going to say that we need at least one more season after this. And finally, among the main characters, we have a new addition to the town, and this is not really a spoiler to say because she is listed with the rest of the series regulars. We have a new character named Sophia. I will not say too much about her yet when this is an early review before the general audience has even been able to see the season 4 premiere. But Sophia is a very surprising character. We have seen multiple new people get dropped into the town. We have watched at least a couple of new people get acclimated to the town every season. She responds to things in the town very differently from all of the new people we've watched go through that experience. Julia Doyle's acting is exceptional. They have given her a lot of material to work with, and she handles it very well. There is so much drama and intrigue entangled with her storyline that I would put her on par with a lot of the main characters and their storylines as we make our way into the back half of season 4 in regards to my level of investment in those storylines, how much is going on with them. You have Boyd as the main character, so there's him. Tabitha and Jade's material, Julie's material, and now Sophia's material. Those are probably the most consistently intense, dramatic, and involved storylines thus far in the season. The characters with the medium storylines, where there's been quite a lot of setup and motion, but we're still too in the middle of things to know whether or not there will be an interesting and satisfying payoff by the end of this season. I would say that includes Ethan, Sarah, Victor and Henry as a duo, and Fatima. Sometimes they'll set things up in the From world that you need to wait longer than a season-long arc to get the payoff for, so I will need to see whether or not the potential fireworks and explosions that might come from those characters' material will be in this season, or potentially a season 5. Overall, this story shows that with careful planning and a meticulous attention to detail, it's possible to maintain a high standard. 4 seasons in, and there has yet to be a dip in quality for drama, intrigue, lore expansion, and character exploration. I would like to circle back to this show once the season finale airs, so we can talk about how all of the storylines played out in full. As of now, my rating for season 4 is positive, as long as they don't out of nowhere nosedive the ending. I'm assuming my feedback will remain positive after I've seen these last 4 episodes of season 4.